So a couple of nights ago, me and my friends went on a little drive. Now, one of my friends on this drive, he's got a 350Z, and honestly, it's such a nice car. And he's big into his photography, like he's a big camera guy. To be honest, it wouldn't surprise me if his camera gear was more expensive than his car. He spends so much money on camera equipment, it's ridiculous. Anyway, every single time we go out, whether it's to a car meet or a car show, or even if it's just us driving about, he will always bring his camera gear. I don't know why, but he loves taking pictures of cars. And to be fair to him, he is really good at it. Now, the great thing about this is me and my friends get really cool pictures of our cars for completely free as well, which is, I mean, here's a few of them now. Like, these pictures are really solid, and it just made me realize that I'm getting professional photography looking photos of my car for completely free. And there's quite a few car guys who are big into their photography. I mean, I do have a camera, but it's not the best, and I'm also not the best at taking photos, so you know, there is that. But car enthusiasts who go to car meets to take pictures of their cars or other people's cars, but they're usually really nice guys, and you can spend so much money getting professional pictures of your car, but you can just go to a car meet or a car show and just meet some random guy who's probably drives like a Toyota Camry, but he's got a camera set up that's like worth more than most people's cars at the meet. I just think it's really funny how there's people out there who are car enthusiasts, but they'll spend more money on camera equipment to take pictures of cars. But in my opinion, like I said before, definitely one of the best types of car enthusiasts. Ever since I've owned my MX-5, the person who's probably helped me out the most has been my dad. And in my opinion, one of the best car enthusiasts you just can't beat is what I call the veteran car guys. The thing is with the older car enthusiasts, they've already been there and done it. And the thing is, right, a lot of us, we already think we know everything. Like, we think we know most things there is to know about cars. Unless you're a mechanic, I mean, that is your job, so fair enough. On the other hand, if cars are more of a hobby, then there is still so much to learn. And the great thing about car guys who are a bit older and they've already experienced most of it is they're so helpful. I'll be working on my car, right, and I think I'm doing everything right. And my dad will come outside and he'll point out the smallest mistake that I'm making. But that small mistake could lead to a massive issue because they've been there and they've seen that mistake happen and they've seen what effects it can have. And that's the thing, veteran car guys, they have the knowledge. They've had their first project car, they've had their first car, they've had all of the stages of car enthusiasts that we're going through. So they know exactly what it's like. But it's good to listen to their advice because I feel like they almost, you know, reminisce and they see themselves in us. And it's funny because a lot of them now just have daily drivers and they'll sit back and think back on, you know, their old project cars they used to have. But always listen to the veteran car guys, whether it's your neighbor, your dad, you know, your mechanic. They're very useful members of the car community in my opinion. It's why we love YouTube channels like Scotty Kilmer, because he almost feels like the older uncle who just knows everything about cars. But 100% in my opinion, one of the best types of car guys. Now, in my opinion, there's nothing better than a classic car. I mean, new cars are great, but you just can't beat the classics. And I remember a few years ago when I used to drive to high school, I used to always see this guy with an old school Renault 5 Turbo. And to be fair, it was kept in really good condition. And I mean, to daily drive a Renault 5 Turbo is very brave. I mean, to daily drive most classic cars is brave, but especially a Renault. But the amount of commitment it takes and the amount of effort it takes to daily drive a classic car honestly, it's so much. I mean, I know this because one of my friends who I really want to feature in a video on the channel has an old school Series 2 Land Rover, and there's so much maintenance he's got to do on that car. I mean, of course, Land Rovers aren't the most reliable cars in general, but with the classic car, they've been around for so long now and they've lived so many different lives that by the time you get around to owning one, there's a lot of maintenance you need to do to make sure it runs right, and they are a little bit more fragile than most modern cars. And don't get me wrong, you can daily drive them and some of them are really good daily drivers, but the majority of classic cars can be really hard to use on the daily. For example, daily driving an old Mark 1 VW Golf is so much more easier than daily driving an old Lancia or Alfa Romeo. But even then, daily driving the old VW Golf is still difficult. Like, it's still a task at hand. I mean, I could even argue my NBMX5 can sometimes take a lot of maintenance because I've got to rust proof it and I have to also make sure other things are running correctly. But then daily driving an old Land Rover or VW Beetle is a whole different ballpark. It's so difficult, and people who do this, they are legends in the car community. I think enough respect goes out to people who just keep classic cars on the road in general, but for someone to daily drive a classic car and keep it in good condition, you've got to respect it, really. Now, in my opinion, the most useful type of car enthusiast, the one that always manages to help you out when you're down bad, is the car enthusiast I call the street mechanic. I feel like we all have that one friend who just, he always has loads of toolboxes in the back of his car, and whenever you've broken down or whenever there's a problem with your car, he'll be the first one there to help you. One of my good friends, as soon as I bought my exhaust, he was the first person around to help me fit it. I was struggling so much to get off the old exhaust in the first place, and he just came around with his toolbox and did it. But genuinely, without him, I would have struggled so much to put the new exhaust on. I mean, to be fair, a lot of the time their daytime job is like an engineer or a mechanic, but they genuinely are the most useful people in the car community. Whenever you're at a car show or a car meet and someone's car breaks down, there's always that one guy who will go running over with a toolbox. What's funny too is most of the time, they just have their normal A to B daily driver cars. Like, they won't even drive an enthusiast car, which I think is the best part about this. However, what I've found is they are the ones who drive their cars the hardest, which is probably why they're so good at fixing them, because their car always will go wrong. But in my opinion, one of the best types of car enthusiasts. It would be interesting to know what sort of car enthusiasts you think are the best, but if you did find some enjoyment in this video, please consider subscribing. It's free and you might as well. And I do make automotive and car content all the time, so if you are interested in this, why not check out these videos here? You never know, you might actually enjoy them, so give them a watch. I will see you in the next one. Ciao for now.